Tell me, are you ready to find your weird way? Weird was a concept that was spoken of long ago. It meant fate, it meant destiny, it meant your path in life. I'm your host, Dean Bentley, and I am here to explore how you can connect to your own path in life, to know the essence of your own soul, to connect to that single spark that lives within the deepest recesses of your being that says, this is why I am here, to go beyond the limitations, the constrictions of the modern world, and open you to the possibilities and the potentiality of what is possible within this world. Join me as we dive deep on the Wyrd Way. Welcome back, Wyrd Wayers. We have another really fun episode, and today I've got another incredible guest coming on the show. Now, I've decided to do something a little bit different in this episode. I normally have a guest, I introduce them, I tell you a little bit about them, and this has been really good, but I've wanted to shift this a little bit and open this to a little bit more authenticity so you can actually feel the person behind the screen and get to know them. And why it felt really good to do it with this guest is because I've felt her. I got to be on her show the other month, and it was really beautiful to feel her energy, to feel her passion, her magnetism. And I wanted to give you an experience of feeling that for yourself. So I'm going to start this episode with a question, and I haven't even introduced her yet. And so the question I want to ask my beautiful guest today, Aasha T, is this podcast is called The Wyrd Way, which for me is about how we can control our own destiny. And for me, I really mean follow my soul in that, or following what's on my heart and what I'm here to serve and what I'm here to give to humanity. Now, the question I have is what makes you suitable to come on and share about your own weird way? And that could be your journey, it could be where you're at in your life now, the path you've lived, but what makes you suited to share about the weird way for yourself?
Okay. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. So my name is Asha, and I love this methodology, this concept, this understanding of following your soul and your soul's desires. And I work and clearing energy for people through their subconscious, through hypnotherapy, as well as quantum and shamanic chakra clearing. So when we want to follow our heart and we want to follow our soul and we want to do all these things that are inside of us, we have piles and piles and piles of rubbish or dirt or muck or garbage between our heart space and our actual soul's desires. Like we know they're in there. In fact, some people are so deeply disconnected, they can't even remember what they want or the order that they're supposed to receive it in, because there is an order. With my work, what I do is I clear that out and I fill you with light. When I fill you with light, it gives you the magnetism that you need so that not only are you following it, but it's actually coming into your existence. So how I teach in I'm the author of The Empath is the Narcissist is full creational power, like you're the player of a game and you're the player and like these characters are just coming into your game at every level to test you. And then I work in emotional intelligence and subconscious work to clear the stories very, very fast. And so my whole business has been around for about 3.5 years, and I've created over $1 million. And I'm an embodiment of my work. I'm here in Los Angeles, starting to work with celebrities and starting my own shows and dancing and things that I want to be doing. So I feel that's what makes me a perfect person to talk about it because I'm doing this whole work. It's awesome. And I think that what can happen to people is they can get stuck, or they feel that it's going to take a really long time, but it doesn't. You can do energy work to speed up the process, because most people I work with want their desires, they want the wealth, they want the beauty, they want the relationship now.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's fun.
Cool, cool,
Now,
beautiful.
now with
And
no attachment.
what was that bit?
I said they want it now, and they're also not attached to when it arrives. It's a good
Mm,
combo.
mm. See, this is something I've been exploring a lot within myself, and I see it within the world too there. And there may be a disagreement here, but I want to explore this because I feel like this is a topic that for myself I want to go further into, where there's in our culture, there seems to be a sense of instant gratification and a need for things happening right now. And I know in my own journey, that's actually caused a lot of negativity when it comes to even the coaching space where I'm trying to get something straight away, or it's like I'm frustrated, I'm not there yet. And I see this in people
Mm,
where it's like the tantrum of the child of like, I should have this now. And there seems like for me an immaturity that happens when people are wanting to create this right now in I need this right now. And for me, the maturing is like, yes, we can have it all, and it may take time. It may take time to actually create. So I'm curious, what are your views on this in regards to instant gratification? Because it's like, yeah, we can create a lot, we can create our reality, but if that's coming from the same place of I
mm,
need this now, that the culture that we've been conditioned into, I see that feeding into a loop that I myself do not want to be a part of.
mm. Yeah, that's a beautiful highlight. I think that's one of the great paradoxes of life in general, right? Is I think, well, you can look at it from two perspectives. Some might say we're in the worst non-motivated period of time right now, with people addicted to reels, obesity higher than ever before, heart disease higher than ever before, and people not getting into relationships quite as quickly as they used to, which is really affecting the family unit. The other way you can look at it is that we have an instant gratification because we have reels, and because we have a throwaway system, and we have this and we have that, right? So there's so many different perspectives. I like to use tangible examples. I had a client that before she came to work with me, she was on the path for like 15 years, and she was suffering from heartbreak for 5 years. After 3 months of working with me, and I'm sure you get results like this all the time, her heartbreak was gone and she was in another relationship. So when I talk about the getting it now and receiving it now, there's this beauty that sort of the Buddhist culture talks about, which is the detachment piece. But there was, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Gandhi or someone else, where it was like, be motivated, be excited about life, want things, and be detached from when that arrives. And I think when you can master that, it's a beautiful thing. So this time last year, I was homeless. Now I live on the beach of Malibu, and my business is fully automated. And we created over $300,000 in just 1 year. And the reason that is because of the depth work and because of my ability to invest and take action. So, and I see sometimes I'll see people like clients that they'll stop, and then they'll see like my other clients winning or me winning, and they're like, why did I stop? I don't know why I'm stopping. So I think for me is, how do we do this in a way that's light driven? How do we do this in a way that's depth and not necessarily action, action, action? I need it now. I need it now. It's this healthy relationship with the desires wanting to manifest. Manny actually means hand. It means to grab. So if you're grabbing from a place of not having, you're actually pushing it away. Where once you have that healthy relationship with depth, things start to manifest much faster. And that's really about the embodiment of who you are and who you're being energetically.
I love this. And I see this where it ties into your other work of relationships as well. It's like when we come into a relationship, if we're coming in with a needy energy of, I need something from you to make myself full, if I need something to fill my own cup or make myself to be whatever that is, if it's like, if I have a relationship, I'm lovable, I'm worthy, I'm etc. If we're coming to the things we're wanting in our world with the same attitude, there's that same neediness we're sending them, which is actually a repulsive force. And what I'm hearing in that is that if you're able to come into the frequency of that and be like, okay, I am complete, I am whole within myself, and I also desire these things, not because I need them, not because I'm like, without them, I'm nothing or anything else, but I desire them because it actually pulls me deeper into life. It pulls me into
That's it.
life and the current of life. That's basically what I'm hearing in that.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to reflect and add to what you've shared, Dean, with my work, I openly say, women, men, it's okay to want to be in a relationship because even societally, there's sort of a frown upon that where, and there's like, focus on your purpose, focus on your purpose, focus on your purpose. Like, what if your purpose is just to be in a relationship? Where does that person stand? And now they're being shamed because that's all they want and they're codependent and they need from someone else. No, no, no. That's just as much a desire as anything else. So I support men and women in that love and that desire and be okay with it. How do we detach more of the stories? Not so that you can have the perfect relationship. That's freaking asinine. And I think that's really doing a disservice to the whole the world in the moment is like, oh, looking for this perfect person. You detach and do the work so that you can attract someone who's more conscious to begin with.
Mm.
And once you attract that level of consciousness, you guys will be able to have a nice conscious relationship and discernment about what it is that you actually want. And so I will quite frankly like put post ups that are like, listen to me. There's nothing wrong with you if you want a man or a woman in your life. In fact, please embrace that and then just line up to the desire and do the work that comes with that.
Mm. Mm. I
Yeah.
see the point that I see as really distinctive in this work, and something I want to highlight is the desires you are tapping into, they're not just the desire for a quick fix or a dopamine hit, which is a lot of the instant gratification where I was talking about. It that comes from not the soul. It comes from like just trying to fill a void, basically. And the thing I feel within this conversation is these desires are actually coming from a deeper place, a deeper honesty within ourselves. And I know we can go down some rabbit holes where our society doesn't acknowledge desire. It's like coming into, if you're in the sexuality space, desires are shamed and shunned. We suppress them, we disown them. If we come into money and things like that, power, there are another category that's got a lot of shame and suppression and the reclamation of them in a way that's like, no, I do want that. For many, it's a reclamation of the shadow self, the disowned parts of like, no, I do want that. And that can be good, that can be pure, it can be the wholeness of self that wants them rather than a manipulation that occurs to get them.
I love that. Yes. There's, because I was like the queen of molestation. I was going to say manifestation. I mean, manipulation, because I have so much creational power and because my work is in attachment, I was super attached. I can't teach this because I was born like this detached goddess. I was like a freaking hot mess. I had stories on stories. And so you can when I started to get the consciousness of my own manipulative behavior, that's really hard to look at. A lot of people can't even look at that. So they just keep looking for the outside thing. So, what does this look like? I'll give you a good example. A few months ago, I had an amazing week. I like think I took like 50K and then I had like another 5K day and like all this money was coming in. And then I found myself in the kitchen like crying about like missing a person. And I was like, we all have these moments where like, not good enough. And I'm like, I like stopped. I was in the middle of like making a tea and I was like, oh my God, I just had like $55,000 like week. I was bitching about money a couple of months ago, and now here I am complaining about the next thing. And I had that aha moment where I'm like, none of these dopamine hits are lasting because they don't last. They don't last. So it's about that emotional regulation so that we're not getting those external dopamine hits and we still enjoy the success and the celebration that comes with, you know, doing great things in your life. And there's a beauty in that. It's like, you can have the validation, you should give the validation, you should want to be around the
Mm.
validation, and you don't necessarily need it as well. And that I think is the beauty of life.
Mm.
Yeah.
I just want to dive a little bit deeper into that because for me, the longing for someone, I'm a big fan of longing for something within this world. Like I long for, the connection to my heart. I long to be free in this world. There's a deeper longing where it's like it pulls me into this world, and there's a detachment from it, but it's like I long for things in this world. And
Yeah.
when I miss someone, I find that a beautiful longing of like, oh, I really want to connect with them. I don't need it, but to feel that longing of how beautiful it would feel to connect with that person actually draws me deeper into this world, which is for me what I want to be doing. I want to draw myself into this world to be in the intimacy of it. And I wasn't sure when you were talking about the cry, like missing a friend, what that experience was like for you. Was there like, oh, I shouldn't be missing them? I wasn't too sure in that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, longing and desire and yearn are such beautiful energies. What we can do sometimes when we have attachments, so in this particular example that I was using, it was with a man that I had an attachment to, and perhaps not a health, it wasn't a healthy attachment. It's not a healthy attachment. It was just an emanation of my father wound, which is an unavailable man. And when we long and we yearn for them in particular, we're putting energetic pressure onto them, which actually keeps them away. But also, so it's interesting because I teach EQ and emotional intelligence. So I always say lean into the yearn, lean into the anger, lean into the sadness. And at the same time, the goal is to take the pressure off of that person. So in that moment, in that particular example, I realized that like I was super happy about making all that money and I was super happy because I got to sign up for dance class. And then I still found something that I was like unhealthily yearning for or attached to. And again, it's not unhealthy, it's part of my wounding, but it was coming from a wounded space, right? And so I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. I'm getting filled up here and I'm getting filled up here and I'm still feeling on some level like it's not enough. And so I was able to identify the dopamine hit, the piece of me that felt unwhole, and the piece of me that felt like I needed him to fill that hole for me. Because if he shows up, he's still never going to fill that hole. It's like up to me to fill that hole. So I think that that's what I meant in that regard. I hope that makes sense. And we do it all the time. Let's say you get like a bonus at work. The next week you might be like, oh, well, it's not enough, right? Or you go how like, when you go like shopping for clothes and people get a real hit off that. Now, there's a couple things. It's awesome. It's fun to go shop for clothes, enjoy yourself, spend your money,
Mm.
have a good time. And if you find yourself a week later being like pissed off at the world and there's not enough and da da da, da, that's when perhaps you might have an unhealthy attachment. We do it with drinking, we do it with the gym, we do it with everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And to clarify, the piece I'm hearing is the energetic of where this is coming from. There's nothing wrong with the yearning for a man or someone in particular. It's the yearning that if I have him, it's going to feel something that I don't have for myself. So that it's like trying to use something outside of us to fill the void, to fill the empty space. We could call that, I can't remember the quote, the God set sized hole in our heart. And for me, that's what it often is. We could use consciousness as God, whatever word we want to use, but that idea that something outside of us will fill us is what you're talking about in that. And coming back to, oh no, I've got myself. I can meet myself, that yearning. I don't need anything from him. And I can just hold myself and be present with that. And that detaches any energetic cord of needing him to do that for you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and that's so true. It's like because yearn is such a beautiful energy. So any energy or any emotion we have is either going to come driven from light or driven from a shadow aspect. That includes hysteria, rage, anger. All of those are just energetic charges. If you're conscious of it and you're conscious that you're in a space of yearn, you may ask yourself, where is this yearn coming from? Is this coming from a place of lack, or is this coming from a place of fulfillment where I feel this way because I desire to feel this way? Because I have a very, very active sexual self-pleasure practice, and that is based on for a long time, it was based on a guy, and now it's based on an energetic king who lives in the sky. So it's like I have this energetic boyfriend, and that's the power of manifestation, the power of law of assumption, which says that I already have that. What happens in that space? You begin manifesting at rapid paces. Yeah, it's amazing. I do it. I'll show you the guys this real quick. I don't know if you guys can see the screen, but I do it with my this is my bank account and I made it like 1.8 million and then my other account's like 3.4 million and I like photoshopped it so that it has like massive amounts of abundance. Like I have it now, the zeros don't matter. You're already in it. And believe it or not, that's what keeps the cycle going.
Yeah.
Yeah, over and over again. It's beautiful.
Mm. This is a like really fun topic for me because I see people doing this from a very mental plane, and I've done it from here
Mhm.
myself of like trying to mentalize and intellectualize. Oh, I've got that amount of money in my bank. I've got this happening, and then being upset that it's not happening. You know, we could go into books like The Secret or manifestation techniques, which are very, for me, very head-based. They're like, okay, if I just think positive, it's going to create this. And, you know, it's why I like a self-pleasure practice for this because it's actually bringing this into the body, which allows the clearing of a lot of the unconscious beliefs and systems to embody that energetic. Um,
Yes.
but can you speak into this, the difference between mentalizing of like I'm gonna think positive, I'm gonna do this to manifest, to actually feeling the energetic current of the thing that you're creating and the difference between the two? Because this for me is such a big piece.
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you so much for asking. And I love what you highlighted. It's so, so true. And it's so difficult for people to even feel emotions. In fact, most people feel that they have a good relationship with emotions, especially if they're in the spiritual community. And what I find over and over again is that the depth still hasn't quite hit a lot of people yet. And I'm going to explain some things that you can do. So first and foremost, when it comes to universal law, the first thing to understand is that the law of frequency comes before the law of attraction, which is why my book is called The Empath is the Narcissist. You are, even if it hurts you, you're always attracting what you feel you are worthy of receiving. Okay. So that's why sometimes you get like a flash in the pan of something amazing, and then you either run away from it subconsciously or like you can't hold it. So, what you want to work on is your emotional range. So, the first thing that I teach is emotional intelligence. If your emotional resilience isn't it's emotional resilience and personal power. If those two things aren't like rock solid, you're going to have a really hard time manifesting. Now, some women, men even, will be listening to this and they're like, but I'm super confident. I've got a great business and I've got this and I've got that. I can't attract a person. And that's when you have to work on empathy. So, empathy is another competency of EQ. So the first thing that you want to work on is your emotional intelligence. The second thing is all of your core wounds. And this does not, it just never ends. You've not done enough inner child work ever, really. And you
No.
just keep getting better and better at that. And it's rejection wound, abandonment wound, father wound, mother wound. And then ultimately, from those two places, emotional intelligence and in core wound work, the third step is to focus on your purpose. There is little to no point taking a business course if you're not focused on your EQ and your core wounds first. Yes, you can do it, but it will save you so much time to do the energetics first. Trust me, the misalignment that I had to do to see all of that. So when you focus on EQ, you're going to naturally start dropping into your body. The results are weight loss, improved relationships, and more money. And you just look hotter and you have better sex and you are richer. And I'm a walking embodiment of this. I've lost over 45 pounds. My relationships are amazing and my business creates quite a bit of money every month. So this is the power of EQ first. So someone might say, but why? Why EQ? If you want to get into the nuances, EQ, emotional intelligence, actually represents the feminine and the masculine hemispheres of the brain, the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. Why? Because it's empathy and personal power. So it's love and truth. So when you really, really understand that, and if that can even land for one listener, I've done my job, you realize that EQ is alignment. You like think of like a child, right? If a little boy said to you, Dean, like, "Oh, you're ugly," like, and he's 3, he's just saying what's on his mind and his heart. It's me, his mother, that comes along and goes, "Don't say that, Johnny. That's so mean." And now Johnny's like, "Wait, that's mean? But I'm just saying what's truth." Imagine a world where if you and I were dating, Dean, and you were like, "You know what, Asha, I don't like you anymore." And I'd be like, "Oh, my heart hurts. That makes me feel sad. Okay, bye." Like it's like that level of naivety and acceptance and truth. And that's what EQ is. EQ isn't about empathy and candy coating shit. It's about being stoic and real and also setting really strong, beautiful, energetic boundaries with an open heart. So I hope that answers the question about moving into the body.
Yeah, and like for me, one of my old teachers, he used to say, there's two things you need, truth and compassion. And
Yes.
compassion could be love. It's like we can say what's really true, but it can come from a place of wanting to attack and hurt the
Mhm.
other person, or actually come from a place of love and compassion of like, no, I'm doing this because this is what's true. It's got to serve life, it's got to serve love, and I want you to receive that. It's a very, very different thing. And I wanted to weave back into a point that you made because you mentioned last year you were homeless and things like this. And it's a point I want to highlight for people that there's always deeper initiations because it's like, oh, I feel
Mhm.
like you said, there's never enough inner child healing. There's never enough core wounding that we're going to be
Yeah.
doing. There's layers and layers. And for me, how that often shows up is a cycle of the dark night or a period of time where I need to enter the darkness. That may mean the things on my external reality aren't looking how
Totally.
I want them to. And it's like, why? I've done all this work and it should be like
Yeah.
this. And then the universal soul's like, man, look at your fucking shit. What are you ignoring within yourself? And
Yeah.
I was curious of that journey for you because I know in my own places where my business has been going under or things haven't been working in the way I want, it's been
Mhm.
this initiation to go reclaim the parts of myself that maybe I rejected or abandoned and I needed to heal. And the universe was pointing me in the direction of where I needed to go to come home. And I feel like from your own journey, that's really what's initiated you into this place where you can hold this for others, but also know the cyclic nature of this work.
God, so great. And I love what you just shared about like even your own journey and realizing like there's something there that we're not looking at. And that's really what it's about, especially for your listeners who are more conscious, who are here to like, serve
Mm.
and have been maybe called into like a bit more of something that has impact and heart. So when I first started this journey on Earth, I was like the narcissist in my first marriage, if you will. And the reason is because I had a heartbreak from when I was about 18 and then I never healed it. And then I chose my husband because the feminine chooses the masculine. And I chose based on my wounding, which so many women
Mhm.
do. And the masculine's natural thing is to take care of that woman. So what happens is after 7 to 10 years, the woman's like, mad at him and bitching and complaining, and there's no sex and there's no intimacy. And she is looking at him like he's the problem, even though it's typically her that's the problem. She's about 90% of it. I don't want to say the problem, but she is 90% of the energy in any dynamic. In any dynamic, the feminine is that strong energetically. The masculine responds to her. So with that, I had a huge wake up call. I like had a dude attached to my soul for 18 years, the guy that like we got in this crazy heartbreak. It's all in the book. And when he let go, I was activated into like a twin flame activation. And I was like, this is my man. And I like rushed off to get divorced and like totally just shocked my poor husband at the time. And then I got dropped like instant karma. And so I had no man to grab onto. I was like, oh my God. So I ended up like grabbing onto inward work and became addicted to that and trying to fix myself. Um, and so I share this story because what happened was then when I saw myself, I said to my husband, I didn't love you because I didn't love me. Let's go move to Thailand and be energy healers. And he said no. And he moved back to Australia. So I saw the dynamic of how the empath and the narcissist relate to one another. And then in the last year, I ended up going homeless because I became codependent on a man who literally couldn't even see me. Same opposite dynamic, where he was sort of playing the narcissist and the villain, and I was playing like this energetic vampire codependent, like, just give me a slurp, until he shut the door on me. And rightfully so in hindsight. Like it was, I think probably the best lesson that I ever got, but I didn't get the full lesson. I did it again. And I abandoned myself. I abandoned what I wanted in my life and basically people pleased in hopes of being chosen, which is a real big form of manipulation that we do. Men and women do it when we've had our heart broken. We
Mhm.
try to get the attention of the person, and then they'll find us and then they'll love us and then we'll be validated. So, those are examples of how when our energy is not in our body, we create lack in our bank account, in our beauty, in our handsomeness. And we stay attached instead of staying whole in our body. As soon as you learn to really stay in your body, you become so, so magnetic. I mean, I'm talking huge levels of magnetism. I mean, like of what you want and what you desire. And I think that's what's the most beautiful thing. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
when those people come back, because typically they always do, they there's a better understanding and like you know not to discount yourself because if they go again, then that's not a loss anymore. We only put power into people that we think are more powerful than us. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
I love the
Yeah.
piece you shared in this that there was a point where you started of like needing to fix yourself. And I see this much in the healing space where it's like I'm doing this work to fix myself. And there's a recognition that I've done this too. And it's been a lot of my journey recognizing where my work has come from. I need to fix this. There's something wrong with me or something that isn't good enough. And that's the deep wound, right? We're not good enough as we are. So we come into this work to heal ourselves or fix ourselves. And it's the recognition and the paradox. We're already okay. And it's about holding that capacity to just be like, I can be loved in all of it. I can be loved in, my empathy or my narcissism, whatever it is, because we all have that. And then the actual loving of that dissolves that, which it seems so paradoxical when from a mind state of like how loving something does dissolve it. And it's like, actually, no, when we meet with presence and come into relationship with these aspects of self, it begins to dissolve. So in that journey there for you, what was the shift where it was like, oh, I moved from a place of fixing into the place of coming into love and presence and holding space for yourself because it feels like that's what you're doing in the healing of the masculine as well.
Yeah, I love that. So the cool thing is, I do want to describe this for people and the understanding. Every time we enter a contract with somebody, and when I say contract, if I paid you $500 to take your course, then I'm going to somehow be attached to your energy. That's the way contracts go. So when we do that, we can end up seeing ourselves in a job that we absolutely hate or a marriage that we absolutely hate. And we stay in there because we're committed. But you can commit to the wrong thing for such a long period of time. I've seen people do this for the rest of their life. So when I learned to let go, I was very lost. I didn't understand, and I needed like things to kind of fill me up. And equally, it was the best thing I ever did because I learned so fast how energy work is like literally the bomb. So I still spend or invest rather about $2,000 a month on my energetic health. I find it really strange when people complain and then they choose not to invest. I think that is it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, why are you living like that? And I also know that that's not as helpful as me embodying and sharing my journey of quitting alcohol and my divorce and lack of intimacy. So many women can relate to this, and so many men, right? They're in these relationships and their wife hasn't had sex with them in, years sometimes. And people are accepting this as connection. So there's like this, it's like I needed those things to help me connect to myself. And I've now what I do, Dean, and this can help your clients and the people who are listen, or rather your listeners. I lean in and I say, what is it that I feel I desire now? And how can I get there in a shorter amount of time? What can I invest in that's going to bring me that thing a little bit faster? And then great example, got one right here. I leaned in 2 weeks ago and I said, I desire to work with a celebrity. And I felt into my heart. I felt into my body and I was like, yeah, I definitely want a celebrity client. I'm in Los Angeles now and this is my path and I'd like to see that path come through. And instantly, this man, his name is Lucas Diamond, came to mind because he had said to me at one point, hey, Asha, when you moved to LA, remember I worked with this coach who now coaches, I don't remember, Kevin Bacon. Let's just say Kevin Bacon because everybody's always 5 degrees from Kevin Bacon. So, whatever he says, he works with some celebrity, goes, and I helped him get that contract with my energy work. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Lucas Diamond. And this was about 2 weeks ago. And then I didn't make a move. And then literally like 2 nights ago, I get an email and it's like, oh, hey, I'm running a special on one-on-one sessions. I never do specials on one-on-one sessions, Lucas Diamond. And I was like, oh my God, right? So here it is, like that little universal nudge that says, hey, here's the thing that you said that you wanted right here in front of your face for only, $600. And will you take that sign? What a lot of people don't do is they don't take the signs. They're not even sure what they want. So they skip over it, or the sign will literally be like knocking them in the face and they're afraid to spend money. So I don't have those money stories. I did. But now, I mean, my coaches and my business build and my bigger mentors are, up to 30K a crack. So it's you get used to the investment, but I do it way more strategically than I did before. Where before it was just like, oh, everybody can work in my energy field. Now it's not like that. So I think for your listeners, the most important thing is to listen in for what you want. If you don't know what you want, you got to start somewhere and make sure that you know that you're worthy. Self-worth is the best place to start.
Yeah. And this is a beautiful point. You mentioned purpose of knowing where we want to go and like the direction. And at the start, you may not want to know where you're wanting to go. It may not be clear. And I know for me on my journey, the universe is always opening a door and asking, hey, do you want to step through this door? There's no door that you
Yeah.
have to step through. There's no door that's like, if I don't step through this, I won't be worthy or I won't be good enough. And I see people and I've seen people where they've used that as a way not to like to shame someone into investing. I do not agree with that. I do not agree. If you do not invest, there's a limitation on your worth. That is complete bullshit. But there is a door the universe opens and you have a choice to step through that. It's like, hey, here's an invitation. I remember on my journey when I started, there was like after a few years into it, a men's retreat came up. And it was like, oh, there's an invitation for a door to step in. And it was like, do I buy a spot in the retreat? I said yes to that. That helped me meet some of my best friends. That helped me move cities,
Amazing.
etc. And I was like, if I said no to that, I would have said no to that experience. Now, life in the universe would have brought me another way into this work, I do believe, because this is where my soul is calling. But in that experience, I said yes to that, and that changed the trajectory. Now, at the moment, what I'm experiencing is there's a lot of doors that have been opened and asked, hey, do I want to go down that or do I want to go down that? And each time it's
Yes.
actually been no. Like, oh, I could see maybe how that would support me, or that one may have some benefit. But at the moment, it's actually been a no to a lot of investment. Now, that's a new experience for me because it's like, that's not serving where I'm going right now. So the
Mm,
attunement to actually listen to our path, and at the start, it may be, I need to say yes to a lot. I'm looking for my path, I'm looking for my direction. And once that becomes clearer, it's like you get attuned to where the no is. And it's like, no, that's not serving
right.
me. I'm not going to put my energy into that. And just to honor that of, you don't always need to be invested in everything, but when you see something and you know, even when it scares the shit out of you, if you don't say yes to that, I find they're saying, first
Yeah.
the feather, then the brick, and then the bus is very
Yeah.
fucking true.
It's so true. I love that. It's so funny because I said, Dean, I was like, I'm done with coaches for a little while. And then I hired a dance coach, a voice coach, a TEDx coach, and I have my energy healer. So I'm like, oh, I'm just moving into a different type of coaching. It's interesting what you did say about not investing. I actually don't fully agree with that, only because I have, well, I work with a lot of high achievers, but I do have a community as well. And there's an energetics about money. So money has absolutely no value other than the value that we put on it. So most people feel as if they're not even worthy to invest, even though they want the thing. And it's like this, almost like this money block, even though they want to get rid of the money block. And so it can, I have a little bit of a healthy dose of dark mother in me where I'm like, come on, you say you want that shit, let's go. Like it's an integrated dark mother. Like you better move. If you want that, go for it. I'm not going to walk you there. This is the investment price, but don't sit here and say that you want, 18 trauma schools and all of this stuff if you're not even willing to spend $300. You've got to look at what you actually want and then what you're actually saying to the universe that you think that you're worthy of receiving. If you're only worthy of YouTube videos, it's going to take you a lot longer. And so when I remember when I said I went homeless, this is like a perfect example. This man came into my life, Dean, and I knew he was the aligned coach for me. And I had no money. I had like $430 in my bank account or 530 bucks. And he was like, it's $30,000. And I was like, fuck, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, can you give me to the end of the day? I'll get 5K. And he's like, okay, yeah, you can do it. And he gave me like a little mini strategy. I busted my ass and I made $5,000 in a day. Now, what I always equate this to is if your child needed $1 million or the ransom people were gonna, do something terrible to your child, you're gonna find that money. How bad do you actually want the thing that's inside of your soul? Because money, I love how it does the thumb. The money doesn't have a value. It's the devotion to what's inside of you that makes the difference. So not only did that man help me, ultimately I ended up spending 26,000 invested in him. We 10 times it. I made $260,000 with him in just a short 7 months. So because I took all of his advice and his strategy, I knew what I was doing wasn't working. And so that is where I lose it a little bit with people. And I'm like, come on, you gotta, it is a little bit has to do with your worth. But again, it's everybody moves at their own pace. So I'm not attached to if people do it or not. But I'm also like, I'm realistic and I'm like, you're a little bit in la la land if you think that all these desires are just going to plop in your lap. You got to work a little bit there, sweetie. And you know that, right, Dean? Especially as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like the piece with this for me is sometimes if I was to try that from a place that isn't alignment with myself and the universe, it would not work. If it was
Mhm.
not your time to make that 5K, because it sounds like for me, you hit bottom and then there was a shift that happened that allowed you to be like, okay, my energy shifted. Maybe there was an internal energy direction of like, I need to be with myself. I can't do shit. Like, this is what I experience in the dark night, where it's like, I'm like, I want to do something in business. I want to create. I can see I need to make money and I try and do that. And the universe is like, no, you need to go inwards and to
Word,
honor
yeah.
that period and the cycle where it's like, actually, at the moment, it's not that period where you're maybe investing in the same way. And to honor that when the cycle comes in and actually be like, oh, that period for you sounds like it went inwards. And then it was like a switch happened, whereas like that is actually in a true alignment. And I imagine before
Yeah.
that, you cleared out a lot of bullshit that was stopping you from truly owning your vision and what you wanted and being like, hey, you get this even when you're in the darkness. Because for me, when I've gone down, it's like I'm attached to the money or I'm attached my worth to the money. And it's like, I need that to show I'm worthy to have that.
That's
And it
right.
sounds like for me, there was a switch like, no, I fucking get this because this is
That's
true to
right.
my soul.
Yes, yes. And that's where most people would look at the tangible evidence in the outside world and be like, oh, I don't have enough money to invest. Where because of all the resilience work and the understanding of the energetics of money, I was like, it has to happen right now. This is the next step. Now, we oftentimes, people can listen to these chats and be like, oh, yeah, my discernment is saying no. I have a real unique relationship with intuition because so much intuition is actually programs and fear of the masculine and fear of being great. You're either going to fear being seen and being great, or you're going to fear not being anything. Those are the two ways the fear comes up. So what we can do is we can rush around doing a ton of shit that's completely misaligned because we're afraid we're not going to be great. And then the other hand is that we stop ourselves and we go, "Oh, my intuition's saying I shouldn't right now." It's not intuition at all. It's your fear. And sometimes people are like, but my intuition's always right. Well, yeah, because if you believe your intuition's always right and it's your fear, it doesn't make a difference. We're telling our mind what to believe at every step. So we can believe any story that we want to believe. And so it's a really powerful interdimensional truth. We have been so deeply programmed to be afraid of our greatness that most people can't do it. So when you and I talked when I was driving across the country to move to California, and I was suffering. I was in so much PTSD because I was afraid I was going to go homeless again. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go homeless again. I'm going to do this again. Like, I'm going to have a repeat. I'm scared. I feel scared. And what should have taken me, 8 days to get across the country, I spent like 20 days because I got stuck in the middle of the country in Utah crying every night because I was like, I'm going to go homeless again. Ah! And just like freaked my own system out. And the reason is because that PTS was like really hitting me again, but I still went for it. I still went for it, even though I was petrified.
And there's a beautiful experience. Like for me, I work a lot with the somatic system of the body. And as we're crying and grieving and raging, like that's all release and energy get that can be stored within the body. So these experiences, they can help shift a lot of the internal things of like, hey, even in the grief, because for me it sounds like grief if you're crying every night. It's like I'm gonna meet myself. I'm gonna hold myself in that. And that sound for me is like, oh, you're giving yourself the permission to hold yourself if that happens again, to give yourself to the fear. And like, even in the fear, I've got myself and I'm not going to turn away. Now, for me, that gives us power because it's like, regardless, I've got myself. I'm going to hold me and be with me. And that's what we actually need to move towards what we want.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, it's absolutely the truth. And it's the somatic work. I mean, I'm also a somatic certified somatic trainer and or rather practitioner. And all of these modalities are just so amazing. And moving that chi is just, I was such an anxious person. Men will meet me now and even women, and they're like, yeah, but you're so calm and you're so centered. and you don't have these problems. I'm like, I was a walking hot, burnt out mess. I was like alcoholic, all of the things. You're not born with the perfect nervous system if you're the energy and emotions lady. You're fucked, right? Like, how am I gonna, I was born with so many stories. And you realize the power when you harness all this stuff, and that always comes from the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
It for me is this continued lesson as a healer. And you talked about contracts earlier, which is a piece I just want to touch on. Like every time I agree to a new client or a new creation, a new offering, there's an initiation that I go through. And I think this is the same with so many people as they direct themselves to be of service to the world. It is we need to go through the experience to make ourselves into the person that we need to be to hold the vision. Because when we're talking about vision, the awareness for me is my vision right now, I don't have the capacity to hold it, not the full vision. And I know when I get there, that will change. But I know I'm the person that can learn along the way towards my vision to become that person. I know the vision is what shapes me into the man that is able to hold this vision. And there'll be initiatory processes along the way to actually hold that. And when you're talking about contracts, I think that for me is we, when I say I want something or I'm creating that, it's a contract with the universe. And we're doing this all the time of like we're creating contracts with the universe. A mentor of mine, he speaks about when he speaks to someone, he's not just speaking to that person, he's speaking to the universe. And I've loved this awareness that when we're creating a contract and it will help shape us into the person we need to be. And that may mean we have to go through the dark night. It may mean we have to go through that experience to get to the other side so we can hold the vision and what we're here to create.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's so beautiful. In the Dark Night of the Soul, I'll give you a good example. I had a client, he signed a contract with me, it was like a 10K contract, so that's a bigger investment. And when he signed it, his wife filed for divorce literally the next day, and found out like all of this crazy stuff was going on behind his back. And he called me. He's like, I don't know what's happening. My whole life is burning down. And here I am going, oh no, we're just like realigning. Like you're just aligning to your divine union. Like you don't sign up with me if you're not ready for a divine union. You just don't. That's what it is. And he was like, but I was like, of course, empathetic, but here I am seeing his higher self. And, it's been about 5 months now since we started the program that he's in. And he's just finished, but he was like, oh my God, now he's teaching EQ and he's doing leadership training, and his life is like completely different from when he started, where it was like burning down. And that is what happens when you enter a contract with someone who's going to take you to your higher self. A lot of coaches don't talk about this. They talk about the end result, but you've got to go through it's just realignment. I've got a great example. I remember I saw this couple in Bali and they were so gorgeous. He was like beautiful man, masculine man like yourself, great vision. He was a speaker, and his wife was like this dainty little beautiful feminine woman, and she hired me for confidence coaching. I was like coaching EQ for business at the time. And I was just getting started, and I looked at them and I was like, I want that. I want that. That's what I want. I could feel it. I was like, oh my God, these two are
Mm,
amazing. They're like a divine union. And I turned to my husband at the time and I was like, yes, we're going to have that. And then within a year, I was divorced, car accident, had to move out of Australia, lost like all my stuff, got sexually assaulted. And it took me almost a year and a half to realize that when I declared that, like I was freaking serious. And now my world was just readjusting. But most people get stuck in that place and they're like, oh no, the universe hates me, or it's never going to
mm,
happen. No, 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 no. You keep going inward and deepen in
mm.
and keep going. Find yourself and align and increase
And
that frequency.
I love this. It's the hero's journey for me where we do have that period in the underworld. And I feel like there may be a few people listening who, have been like, I want the vision. I want to go after what I want and maybe declared it And then they're coming into that underworld period where there's darkness and it's like nothing's working or it's not going where I want it to go. Why is this happening? And if someone was in that point, what would you tell them to like continue them on their journey?
Yeah, so I love that. I see that a lot, where people will do that and then what they can't handle the breakdown. It has to, I say the same thing over and over again. So it's like, let's say you put in an order with like God or the universe or source, whatever you want to call it. You write it down like you would on like, let's say like a restaurant where you take your own order and then you put it into the kitchen and then it's up in the energetic buffet and they're cooking away and they're in the middle of cooking your dinner. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Dean ordered, $1 million a month. All right, let's cook that up for him. And now you're sitting at the table and you're like impatient because it's not coming out fast enough. And then you get bread and you're like, well, this isn't the $1 million. This is only 10,000. So it's kind of working. And then the people next to you start fighting. And then, there's like the dirty table next to you and a baby throws us food and you're over here. Now you're pissed off because you're waiting so long and you end up leaving the restaurant right when they're about to give you the main course. And so what happens is because we're in the mix of this busy ass restaurant and it feels like they forgot your order and all your shit's burning down, you're getting pissed off and you don't want to pay the bill and you decide to go to another. So now you go to another restaurant and now you're like, I'm going to try this restaurant, even though you're bringing the same you. So it's like when people are like, oh, I tried TikTok. TikTok doesn't work. I'm going to go over to YouTube now. No, no, no. You haven't mastered the one thing. Stick with one thing and see it all the way through to the end. And so there's this beautiful energy piece that happens. So in the space, what the reason why my course is so amazing, Self-Worth Warriors, is it's a support course for when you're doing your business build and it's hypno and it's somatics and it's energy works and it's shamanic work and quantum work and guest practitioners so that you're getting the energetic support the entire time so that when the stories come up, you clear them. You don't have to sit in the story forever. You don't have to sit in a story forever. You can choose to sit in a story about lack for literally your entire life, or you can move it with energy work and somatics and hypnotherapy faster. And so for me, it's like just change your perspective. Emotions, everybody's got them. You're not special. And that's the truth of it. It's like if you have that burning desire and you really, really have that, you want to look at your perspective. Who are you? What country are you in? Are you a white male or a white woman? You've got a way, you already are rocking serious privilege. So use that platform. When I went homeless, Dean, I saw my like white privilege fast because I got to move into my parents' basement. And I was like, imagine if I didn't go after my soul's desires because I was too emotional. Like, what the hell? How am I going to help anybody if I can't do this? And so, and we lived in Asia and we lived in Indonesia and I've lived in places. These people have the same desires we do without nearly the resources that we have. So it's about cultivating a dope relationship with your emotions. It's fun. Dark Night of the Soul's are fun.
I find
Everybody loves getting their heart ripped out. Yay.
I think this is one of the best things you can learn on the journey is that it doesn't stop. And like what you said, like everyone loves getting their heart ripped out. I see it like the gym. If you've started at the gym and you've never gone to the gym, you probably hate the fuck out of it for a little while. And
That's it.
it's okay. It's okay to hate it at the start or feel painful or suffer. Like it's like I need to do this because I committed to the vision. But I know when I started the gym, there was a point where I started to fall in love with it, where I started to see my body change. I felt fitter. I felt more confident. I felt, a greater sense of who I was. And it was like, oh, I'm in love with this. I want to do this every day. Now that turned into more of an addiction where it got unhealthy at some point and I needed to rein that in. But there was a point where it's like,
Yeah.
no, I love this. I want to do this. And yeah, I find it very similar in this work where it's like, we need to fall in love with the process. It's very easy to be like, oh, I've done this so many times, and I know so many others. Like when I've got this next fin, when I've healed this trauma, when I've healed this wound,
Yes.
then I'll be able to do this. And
Mm,
that for me is still coming from this mentality of fixing, of I need to be more than I am. And that means there's actually a deep wound of I'm not good enough yet. I'm not worthy. And that's the piece we need to be with. And when we can be with that and actually give that permission and time and space to be like, no, I've got you. If you don't feel good enough, that is so welcome. And like, I'm going to be with that. And I'm also going to follow what I'm here to do. And like, that gets to be here. For me, this is a permission of how authentic can we be? How real could I be in this moment where it's like, hey, I'm not feeling like I should be here. Can that be okay? And I still be here? Like, can I acknowledge that? Not to reject that, not to bypass of like, that's not welcome. I need to get rid of that, which I see a lot of people do, which I've done because it's like, if I could get rid of that, then I'm going to be better and I'm going to be good enough. No, it's actually been like, cool. Can I welcome I'm not good enough? Can I hold the paradox of I'm exactly who I need to be and the feeling of I'm not good enough and come to a place of harmony within that? And from that place, begin to lead and acknowledge this is what my soul wants. This is what we want. And, this for me is you mentioned earlier, I can't remember what it was, but the intuition where people can get trapped into the fear of like if I just buy into the story of my intuition, that can be coming from fear. Now, I see that in the spiritual
yeah.
community from the feeling base. It doesn't feel good for me. It doesn't feel good for me to
Oh, I
do
know.
that thing. And it's the same
Yes.
thing. It can be the same
Same
trauma
thing.
response, the somatic process. And it's like sometimes our body just knows of like, hey, that's not okay for me. I do believe that. I've had experiences where I've tried to bypass that and I had to learn that. But there's this
Hmm.
journey of like, actually, is this just because I'm afraid? Is my body reacting because it's believed a story that is no longer true? Have I got taught that if I go after this, I'll be alone and abandoned or whatever it is? And it's like, oh, that's why my body reacts. Okay, do
Yeah.
I want to change that and build a relationship with something more
I
and
love
go
that.
from there?
My gosh, you highlighted so many great points. I love what you were talking about that. Like, okay, if I have this, then I'm worthy. I was the queen of that. I had to look at that really. I was like, oh, I think I have to create $500,000 and then I'll get chosen. And then I was like, wait a minute, I would never choose a man for money ever. Why would I ever put that type of pressure on myself? And
Mhm.
like, I'm worthy right now. We're actually worthy of all of it right now. It's these stories that we create to actually block ourselves from receiving it. And so that is such a powerful piece. And you're absolutely right about the feeling of like, I
Mhm.
remember this one guy being like, "Oh, if it's not a resounding yes, it's a no." Well, really? Because I've taken some rides where it is not a resounding yes. And I'm like, it's been the most beneficial thing. I had to learn the lesson. I've even taken rides where it has been a resounding yes, and I knew it was misaligned, but I still did it anyway. And I'm like, I can see this isn't right, but I'm still here and I'm still in this contract. And like, it's just really, really powerful as your perspective starts to grow and your discernment starts to grow. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for me, it's like
And that
that
always
fallen
comes,
in.
yeah, go ahead. I was
Well,
going to say it comes with the more depth work that you do, the more your body shines light, the more you're going to know what's for you and what's not for you.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
often come to this of like, who is the version of me that is having what I want, having the vision or the desires or etc. And for me, when I tune into that, because a lot of people deal with the internal judgment of I'm not good enough yet. And it's like that man for me, he's very fucking compassionate to himself. He's like, man, you're not feeling good enough. That's okay. I've got me. He's not like, you're not feeling good enough. So you should be better. It's like, no, that's not who it is. And that's what many of us
Yeah.
believe. It's like, if I can just flagellate myself into being better, then I'll be better. That's the condition. And that's what's been done time and time again. Can we actually bring a new way, which is the compassionate, which is the kindness, and the one that is going to be the version of us that we desire to be? Can we bring that into the now?
I love that. Yeah, it's like this gratitude. And You're really describing to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Neville Goddard and law of assumption, but it is about being the thing now. And that law of assumption, my son's just, I don't know if you can hear my son. He's playing video games with his friends and they're so loud. It's so cute. I'm sorry. And yeah, the law of assumption is having it now and being in the energy of it now. So even for your listeners, listening to Neville Goddard, he's a professional at this. This is like that was like his life's path. But even with like me and my king, I will put on my Facebook page like my king and I are so excited to have you. And I don't have a man in the flesh. He just lives with me. There's room for him in my closet. I'm making space all over the place for him to come in. And yeah, it's just this really powerful piece of assuming that I already have the thing that I want. And then I detach from when it arrives and just act like it's already with me. It's really
Mm.
powerful. And then it manifests. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
manifests and then you run away from it. And then you run back and then you run back and then it's like, it goes. And it's about your worthiness. I believe that we're always sort of at a point where we need to either come up or move out of the way, and that's resonance. And it's just so powerful. It's so powerful. Resonance and energetics. It's the best.
Mm. And it's a funny piece, like
Yeah.
often as we create what we want, there's another initiation on the other side. And this goes back to how deeply can we fall in love with the process? It's like, okay, I'm ready for this then. The fin arrives, and then the next initiation comes, and it's like, I wasn't ready for this. And it's like, actually, no, this is what you're preparing for. And here's the next test to help you grow and expand and continue on your journey. And you better fucking fall in love with it. Otherwise, you're gonna hate this ride.
Oh my God, isn't that the truth? It's like, it's so true because I have massive aspirations just like you. And you have to initiate. And like, with everything. Right now, I'm in a bikini contest. This is very difficult initiation. It's like a lot of work. And then after that, I'm running a marathon in the Grand Canyon. That shit's going to be real, real, real difficult. Like, these are things that I'm putting myself out there to do, to accomplish because I desire to accomplish them. And also, I equally am like, I fucking hate this because it's hard. And like, I think that's the thing is we kind of pussyfoot around. And you don't want that for yourself. I imagine at least most people don't want that for themselves. I mean, being an author, like now I'm writing two more books and like, a musical. Once you kind of get used to the initiations, like you said, it's like going to the gym. You keep going and you get so I went homeless last year and I went 80K in debt and then I repeated that. I just turned around and was 80K in debt like a month ago. And I was like, oh my God, I did the same thing, but this time I wasn't dying in my mother's basement, wishing that somebody would come down and kill me. What the hell was I on? Crying every night, literally scraping my shit off the floor, like, how am I going to do this? It wasn't like that. It was like a week of that. And then I was like, all right, sweet. Like, I'm just, because you build the resilience, you learn how to trust the process. And then guess 50K pops into my bank account. And so to pay down the 80K, it's like, it's unbelievable when you start to get the awareness about how this place works.
Mhm. And I think a lot of this teaching is going back to what you talked about for growing that non-attachment. It's like the universe will
Mm.
constantly invite us into that level of can I be myself outside of whatever is occurring outside of me? Can I just be me? And can I like be all of it regardless of what's happening in my bank account, my relationship? Can I show up as the authentic version of me, an expression of my soul, and someone who's here to share who I am with this world? And that for me is all this work is about, regardless of what's happening around. It's like, how much can I be me? How much can any of us be us? Because
Yeah,
that's what the world's
I love
needing.
that.
It's not needing us to freak out every time something goes bad or it doesn't go right or the way we want it. It's like, no, can you honor yourself and hold the love for yourself, this world, and all you are, regardless of what's happening? And that for me is the deepest wish for everyone listening to this and for myself. It's like, no, let us be us, regardless.
I
Mm.
love that. It's funny because I went to a comedy show the other night and like the dude was like, nothing fucking matters. Look at these two old people. Ask them how many times we've had problems with taxes. Ask them how many times we've had gas inflation. And they were like oh, like 4 or 5 times. He's like, nothing matters. And he's like, you think you're so important. And I love that type of joking because it's every once in a while I'm like, I stand for divine union in the family unit. And then like equally, I love Cleopatra. And Cleopatra was like a total sex freak. I mean, there's like a story of her having sex with like 100 guys in one night. And I'm like, more power to you, Cleopatra. Like it's the range, right? And it's funny because like even with the spiritual ego, it's like spirituality is not about judging others. I'm like, that's actually not true. Look at Ricky Gervais. He is literally one of the funniest comedians, and all he does is judge people. He's committed to his truth, his essence, his jester. And the jester and the joker is an archetype that's, thousands of years old. Kings and queens used
Mm.
to hire the jesters to make fun of the people in the town, in the kingdom. And like, and now we're here like, don't make fun of people. And I'm like, that's not what spirituality is. Spirituality is commitment to your truth. It's how spirituality is commitment to your truth and not reacting to other people's truths. Like, I will judge you. I will judge you if you're wearing Crocs and sweatpants as like a 45-year-old man and like I'm gonna say something about it on my art piece. I don't care if you say Asha T is a bitch because she doesn't like me and my Crocs because you're doing your own art piece. Have a I Hate Asha T fan club. That's totally fine by me. Enjoy it. Have a great time. I hope that you get a lot of members. And I'm also going to be over here building my own kingdom, which is anti-Crocs. So it's like, it's totally cool. And I think that's as long as there's ethics and, I think that, ethics play a point, but like, where do you draw the line? Because then we need to have fun. And comedy is hilarious. Like,
Mm.
comedy is the best. It's the gateway to like the spirit. Like this whole place is a little bit of a joke. And I think that that's a really light way of looking at life as well. Because if you can keep that lightness, other people will inspire to be in that lightness as well. And that's when bad things stop happening.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, and the role of the jester, with a few other archetypes, is one that's much needed for the seriousness of this world right now. Of like, hey, I know I need it when I get serious. It's like, Dean, you're very serious right now. You think the weight of the world's on your shoulders. Have a fucking laugh. Yeah, yeah. It's like it's not all your responsibility. Have some fun, be playful. And it's like, oh shit, like from that place of, and anytime I look at like an enlightened master, they're not out there being like, I'm carrying the weight of the world. They're fucking joyful little children, and
Yes,
that's the
yes.
beauty. That is the
Oh my God, I love
beauty.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. Like my magnetism is like always on and popping when I'm like having a blast and like just talking and having these types of conversations and talking about this type of consciousness work. But like also when I'm in my like deep feminine energy and dancing around and playing and hanging out with kids, it's like I'm in like the zone. And I think that that's just, it's like, it's again, it's that paradox of like holding both the light and the dark, the heavy and the light, and the truth and the fun, and the joy and the joy and the villain. So
Mm.
it's fun when you get to integrate all of it and be.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to begin wrapping this up with like just that point of like non-attachment to how reality shows up. It's like if you can be with it all, you can fall in love with it all, and that dissolves a lot of the tension and the internal and the external conflict. It's the great work. It's the what we're actually seeking, and just that permission to fall in love with what is. And that's where I'm gonna just like allow myself to leave it. But before I do that, Asha T, I feel like is there any pieces that are still percolating for you in a moment? I'd love for you to share your socials and anything you've got coming up. But is there anything still percolating that feels like it wants to be shared with the audience here today before we wrap up the weird way?
Yes. Oh God, I love this. Really, that commitment to your truth and your ability to be okay with letting go of people who feel like they're not growing at this time. Because Well, number one, we're not ending life tomorrow. You've got at least 30, 40 years. Everybody's growing at their own rate. So relax. But those energetic contracts and those energetic attachments are always what keeps people from moving forward. So if you're in a space right now where somebody's activated you and you're in love with them still, and you wish they would just see you, or you want an answer to why they broke your heart, I really, really make that your primary focus, that detachment work. That is literally what stops people from aligning to what, the universe really, really, really wants to give you, what's in your heart. And sometimes what we do is we stick that into a person that perhaps doesn't want that with us, and that's okay. It's about knowing that you can create it again. I think that's really important, because otherwise you're going to abandon yourself, and when you abandon yourself, you're going to turn around and go, wait a minute, this isn't what I wanted. And now I've got 19 cats and no cock. And, I saw a shot of that into my future. I met a woman, she lives in my building, and she was about to write a book. She moved to LA. She moved to LA 40 years ago. She was about to write a book. She joined a spiritual guru, ended up like roping her into his like spiritual web, and she never healed it. And it's been 40 years now. She lives paycheck to paycheck, and she's got like 8 cats. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is like a potential timeline for me if I don't let go of this image of this man that I had. And it was really, really inspiring. So you really want to lean into what you want first, and then work on harnessing your energy in to receive that. And trust me, you can always create it again. And I'm not saying this to be savage. I'm saying this so you guys understand how this really, really works. You're not leaving anybody behind. All right. That's really important. Yeah.
Mm.
They'll catch up if they want to. And if they don't, that's okay. Trust me. It's fine. Yeah,
Mm.
that's fun.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. Really, really beautiful. And I feel that leaves the listeners with a lot here today. And if people were wanting to find you, I know you mentioned your self-worth course that is coming up. Can that you just share a bit about that and where people can connect? I'll put everything in the show notes as well for the listeners to just connect as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Dean. Yes, so Self-Worth Warriors is my signature program. I've served almost 300 souls through that course. It is so powerful. It runs 10 weeks, but it has a community, so you can stay in the community. We've got about 30 people in there in the moment. It is $555, down 80% from $3,000. So it's an unbelievable value. We also have a master hypnotherapist and a somatics and facial woman who does body work as well with the clients. So it's a beautiful, beautiful space. It's for men and women. And my book is called The Empath is the Narcissist by Asha, Aasha. So like Sasha, but with two A's, by Aasha T. And that is on Amazon, for sale on Amazon. And it's a very, very good book if you've had a dynamic where you've had your heart ripped in a million pieces. You're going to understand that book really deeply. So, and that's pretty much how most of us all connect anyways, through heartbreak. So yeah, and I'd like to change that. Heart healing. Yeah. So those are the ways that you can get in touch with me. And then my main thing is Facebook, Aasha T, Aasha T, or you can find me on Instagram at Aasha and the King is my Instagram handle.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Asha. Thank you, everyone that joined us here on the Weird Way today. I hope you got a lot of value today. I'd love if you can share this podcast, send it to someone you know, share it on Instagram, and let us know what you thought, what landed for you. It's always beautiful to receive the insights, the takeaways, and just really what inspired you from this conversation and even what's landed. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out to myself or Asha, please do let us know what connected for you. It's always beautiful to hear and continue to inspire more of these conversations. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day.